Alright guys, Arsenal have just beaten Oxford United by 3-0 to progress to the next round of the FA Cup round 4, where they will play Manchester City, which has surely got to be the most exciting game in that round, given that it is the top two teams in English football right now, so early on in the competition as well. But yeah, in this game, I thought Arsenal first half looked a little bit uninspired, I'll use that word, because they weren't creating any chances really. I'm not even sure they had a shot on goal in the first half. I think Oxford might have had more shots than them. Neither keeper really had much to do in that first half. Arsenal had a lot more of the possession, but Oxford, if anything, it seemed as though they were the team getting forward with it and you know, occasionally looking more dangerous when they did go forward with it. I just thought Arsenal, they just looked a little bit, I don't know, almost worried or just anxious about the fact that they're massive favourites to win this game, because, you know, Oxford, they're the huge underdogs. I think they're in League One, 2 divisions lower than Arsenal, who are top of the Premier League. So, you know, it just seemed like the pressure was getting to Arsenal a little bit, and that they were, on some occasions, they were trying to rush things, and on some occasions they were just trying not to lose the ball, you know, for anything really. So yeah, I think Mikel Arteta had to give them a bit of a talking to at half time, because it just wasn't really good enough for that first half. And so second half they came out and played a little bit better the first 10 minutes or so, and then they made a couple of changes, bringing on Granit Xhaka and Alexander Zinchenko, who definitely 100% made a difference to the game. I thought the only Arsenal player who had some sort of positive performance in that first half was actually Kieran Tierney. The two wingers, Saka and Martinelli, really struggled to get in the game, but Tierney actually made a couple of, you know, good runs forward with the ball, and at least looked like he wanted to attack the Oxford defence, even though he is a fullback. So I was actually a bit surprised that he got taken off on the hour mark, given that he had put in a fairly decent performance. But no, when Xhaka and Zinchenko both came on, Arsenal just seemed to step it up a notch, and the free kick goal was brilliant ball by Fabio Vieira and a good header by Elneny. You can just see that Tomiyasu's absolutely launched himself to get his head on the ball, but can't quite reach it, and that probably adds to how well Elneny did to score the header, because he has got Tomiyasu trying to get to the ball before him, which, you know, could put him off a little bit, but no, he just, you know, keeps it on target, and yeah, uses the pace that's already on the ball from the cross from Vieira just to guide it into the net. And from then on, Arsenal just found their mojo, got a bit of confidence, and the second goal is another superb assist from Fabio Vieira. Did really well to slide it through to Nketiah, split the defence open, and Nketiah took it round the keeper and put it into an empty net. And yeah, Nketiah also got a third from a counter attack when Martinelli played him through, and this time he just did a slight little dink off the ground just to get it over the keeper's left. I think McGinty in goal for Oxford just sort of gave himself away a bit too soon, sort of like committed a bit too early, and then that sort of made it an obvious decision for Nketiah on what to do. He had a fair portion of the goal to aim at that point. But yeah, I mean, Nketiah, I mean, he is the domestic cup competition Pele, really, isn't he? He has a superb goal record for Arsenal in cup competitions, whether it be Carabao or FA Cup. And even recently, he started doing it consistently in the Premier League now that he's getting a few games because of the injury to Gabriel Jesus. He is a really good finisher, And I have heard Arsenal fans saying he does have similarities to Ian Wright in that he is just a born goal scorer. You know, knows how to score goals, dangerous anywhere in and around the the penalty box. Sorry, and yeah, he's scored quite a few goals since the World Cup break, and has been in really good form. And yeah, from then on, it was game done and dusted. Arsenal brought on a few more subs, bringing on Marquinhos and Emile Smith-Rowe. And Smith-Rowe, when he came on, he just looked a little bit rusty. And I know that that's most likely down to the fact that he's been injured for so long. But yeah, that Arsenal will need him to get back up to speed to pretty much how good he was 12 months ago, because 2022, I think if you ask Smith Rowe how he found it, I think he'd probably say it was a little bit of a disappointing year because of you know, the fact that he had the injury at the start of this season, and towards the end of last season, even though he was so good in 2021 in the entire calendar year at the end of that season where Arsenal struggled, and the start of last season when they made a push for top four, he managed to, I think, got double figures in terms of goals in the Premier League. But towards the end, he did get phased out of the team for the preferred front three that Arsenal went for of Martinelli, Lacazette and Saka, with Odegaard in behind, and who else played? Xhaka and Thomas Partey, obviously, yeah. So yeah, he'll need to, you know, get back up to speed to help Arsenal with their title charge this season. But yeah, Oxford, they weren't too bad first half. I thought there were a couple of players who stood out to me. I really liked Anderson at right back. I thought he had a brilliant game in terms of defending and going forward at times as well, helping out down the right wing. There weren't many occasions where Oxford were able to, you know, pose much of a threat going forward, but they got forward a few times. But yeah, this game was just sort of a get it over and done with job for Arsenal in the end, really, and they did. They're through to the next round, and I think they can give the FA Cup a go this season, because a lot of people have talked about the fact that Arsenal don't have much depth in their squad. I think they have more than you would think they do. The goalkeepers, I mean, Ramsdale and Turner, they're both competent. Ramsdale's very good, actually. Competent was a bit harsh, but yeah. Defence, they've now got two fullbacks for each position in terms of Ben White and Tomiyasu at right back, and Tierney and Zinchenko left back. I know Tierney can be a bit of a problem with injuries, but you know, two options is good enough. And Ben White can also cover at centre back if needed, with Gabriel Saliba and Rob Holding, who is, you know, he's reliable. Midfield, Xhaka, Partey, Odegaard, the starting midfielders. You've got Smith-Rowe, who can probably replace Odegaard. Fabio Vieira showed how good he is tonight, brilliant performance. And El Neni, again, another one who's just reliable, nothing spectacular, but does a job. I think the only position that they're really struggling with is out wide, with Martinelli and Saka. I know Smith-Rowe can sort of replace Martinelli if Martinelli picks up an injury, but on that right side in particular, Marquinhos will have to, you know, he's probably the closest thing they've got to a replacement on that right. So their squad depth is definitely better than I thought it was before I, you know, properly looked into it, and before tonight's game as well. But yeah, we'll do some player ratings. So we'll start off with home team, Oxford United. McGinty I've given a 5. I just thought, even though he didn't make any errors, the second and third goals, the Nketiah goals, I thought maybe he could have positioned himself and also timed when he was going to go down a little bit better. But I think that might be picking at straws. But yeah, I don't think it was a horrendous performance, so I've given him a 5. Anderson I've given a 7. I thought he was Oxford's best player at right back, made some good challenges, kept Martinelli really quiet throughout the majority of the game. In fact, Martinelli's best moments in this game came when he sort of drifted in centrally because he was having no luck out on the left. So Anderson had a brilliant game. Then Moore at centre back I've given a 6. Again, no real mistakes. Whereas Long, I didn't feel as though it was quite as good. There were a couple of occasions where he'd dive in and let a player slip past him, especially in the second half. Brown at left back, I thought he was a little bit unlucky to get a booking, but had an overall solid game really. And then midfield, Bates have given a 6. He worked really hard in that first half, had a decent game. Brannigan, ex-Liverpool player, I remember watching him a few times for Liverpool. I've given him a 5. I just didn't feel as though he played well enough, to be honest. Second half, first half he wasn't too bad, but second half there were times where Fabio Vieira or Granit Xhaka would get past him a little bit too easily with the ball. And Josh Murphy, brother of Jacob Murphy, obviously, I think I remember Josh Murphy playing for Cardiff a few years ago in the Premier League. I think they were both at Norwich at one point as well, about 5 years ago. I've given him a 5 just because he didn't get involved enough. He got substituted with about 20-25 minutes to go, and it was just an all-round forgettable performance. Maguire, I've given a 5 as well. Not enough creativity for me. But Bowden, I thought he was probably Oxford's best attacker. There were a few occasions where he managed to get forward on the left, so yeah, I've given him a 6. And Taylor, I've given a 5 again. There was one moment in the game where I thought he could have got a shot off, but delayed his shot, and yeah, the chance had gone by then. And then on to Arsenal, Matt Turner I've given a 6. He didn't have an awful lot to do, but any time anything did happen, he dealt with it. So yeah, fair. I think that is. And then defence, Tomiyasu, Holding, and Gabriel have given all 6s because they did their jobs. Not a lot else to do for them really. Played well. There was a couple of occasions when I thought in the first half where Nketiah would make like a good run like across the back line of Oxford, and one of the centre backs would just play it sideways instead of having the balls to try and pick him out. So maybe they could have improved on that in the first half, but yeah, it wasn't a bad performance. Tierney I've given 7. I thought he was Arsenal's best player arguably in that first half, and yeah, had a good game before he was substituted. And Vieira, my man of the match today, I've given him an 8. Got 2 assists and I had a brilliant performance, but both really good setups for the goals. And yeah, it showed that I think he is a more than capable backup for Odegaard. Basically, Odegaard's been arguably Arsenal's best player this season. I think if Odegaard gets injured, I don't think Vieira might not be quite as good, but I don't think they would miss Odegaard as much if he was injured as if they didn't have Vieira. Basically, Vieira looks like a quality footballer from what I've seen of him. I've seen about 3 or 4 games that he's played now, and every one he's been brilliant. There was that one against Brentford in the Prem in September time, I think it was, and he scored a beauty of a goal in that. And yeah, he's had some good performances. Elneny have given a 7. Solid performance in midfield, took his goal well deserved. And then Lokonga I've given a 5. I just didn't think he played well enough first half, and rightfully got subbed off. And I just, in the 18 months he's been at Arsenal, I'll be honest, I haven't seen him put in a performance that's made me go, yeah, this lad could go on to do big things. It just hasn't really worked out. It wasn't a big transfer in for Arsenal. It was, I think he was in that he was transferred in that window where they signed Ben White, Ramsdale. Who else did they sign that summer? Odegaard on a permanent transfer as well. I think he was just a little extra for a bit of squad depth, and yeah, it just hasn't really worked out. And yeah, he doesn't really impact games enough. And then Saka and Martinelli have given 6s because Yeah, Saka unfortunately went off injured, and hopefully for Arsenal that's nothing bad, because as I said earlier, that's the one position I feel in this Arsenal team where they can't really um, replace him, if that makes sense, because they haven't really got anyone to go on that right bar Marquinhos, who is still relatively an unknown quantity. So yeah, but both of them I thought struggled to really get involved. Martinelli towards the end of the game started getting on the ball a bit more. So yeah, maybe a 6 might be a bit harsh. I'm going to stick with it though. And Nketiah I've given a 7, because he made good runs throughout the game. None of his teammates really picked him out in the first half, but took his 2 goals brilliantly and had a really good performance. So yeah, really good game from Nketiah, and brilliant goals as well. But anyway, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.